Welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and as you know, the presidential field, both on the Democratic side and the Republican side, things are heating up, and the Republican side is expected to be quite crowded. But one of the names that continues to poll very well and remains pretty much around the top 3, 4, 5 is Governor Mike Huckabee. He's the host of his own show on Fox News, which he has now since resigned from, and he also had his own national radio talk show, which is also now let go. And he's expected to make his announcement about his intentions to run for president on May 5th. In the meantime, he's authored a very interesting book. It's entitled God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy. Well, earlier we had a chance to talk to Governor Mike Huckabee, so join me now as we enjoy this conversation together. Well, today we have the high honor of having with us Governor Mike Huckabee. Now, you probably have read one of his 11 books. Perhaps you have watched him on Fox News. Maybe you voted for him in Arkansas. You voted for him when he ran for president of the United States. But now you have to go get his new book entitled God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy. And there's a picture of it there on the screen. May I encourage you to get a copy of this book and read it. It is terrific, and it summarizes just about everything that concerns us. Governor, what an honor to have you today. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you, Perry. I appreciate it, and thanks for the kind word about the book. I hope it connects with people, and I think it does.
It really does. By the way, I have to tell you, I watched your webcast Sunday night from Hope, Arkansas. It was terrific.
Well, thank you. We hoped that what we could do with that webcast was just to bring some encouragement to people. It was not a political rally. It was really a spiritual event. The primary purpose is to say to people who are believers, you aren't alone. There are a lot of folks like you. Don't give up. But even if you are all by yourself, you're really not, because if God's with you, you're still a majority.
Well, you know, I have to say, you are a patriot pastor. The preach came out in you Sunday night.
Can't get rid of it, huh?
No, you can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it.
25 years, but yeah, it's still there.
Attaboy. Well, don't let it ever go away. Governor, why'd you write this book?
One of the things that I observed over the past several years, Perry, is that I would go to places like New York, Washington, and Hollywood. Those are the nerve centers of America in terms of our culture. It's in those three, what I call bubbles of influence, that everything from fashion to finance, politics, government, movies, entertainment, pretty much everything in our culture is either created or certainly it's touched from there. But here's what I also realize, that the culture, the values, the lifestyle of the people who live in those three bubbles, very different than the culture lifestyle of the people who live in what we often call flyover country, or what I call the land of God, guns, grits, and gravy. So this book, conceived about 2 years ago, I started collecting examples, illustrations of how this country was polarized culturally, even as much as it is politically. And the result is the book, God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy. A lot of people, by the way, Perry, think that it's a recipe book of Southern cuisine. It is not.
Well, I don't know. Grits and gravy do go together. And isn't Arkansas where the grits run into the gravy?
Pretty much, although in Arkansas we've often said that it's one of those states where gravy is considered a beverage.
That's terrific. Well, the culture, we're all concerned about it, especially those of us who are Christian. We're really concerned about it, and all of our praying and all of our concern doesn't seem to be changing it. What can we do, Pastor?
I think one of the challenges we face is just the will to stand up and speak up. So many people surrender at the first sign of opposition to their convictions. Today, Christians are clearly under siege. I know that sounds hyperbolic, but I'm telling you, when the President of the United States will reach back 1,000 years and bring up things that people in the name of Christ did, but he won't call out Islamic jihadism. When the government attacks the Little Sisters of the Poor and the Green family who own Hobby Lobby, and when local governments will go after Elaine's photography or sweet cakes by Melissa because they have convictions about marriage and try to put them out of business, and in fact do put them out of business. And Christians need to be very concerned, because No longer can we say that our values are the prevailing values that set the cultural template of America. But we can't come back. We can't really even live with our religious liberty that we're guaranteed under the Constitution if at the very first sign of opposition, we just raise the white flag, wave it, and surrender. So the first thing, stand up, speak up. And if we don't do that, then frankly, the battle's over and we lose.
Governor, it's been said that the hope of America now lies within the pulpits, with the pastor. Do you believe that?
I do. I think sometimes we have thought that if we elect the right people, that the election of certain people will lead to a spiritual revival. But I have long said, even before I got into politics, and one of the reasons that I got into it was to say, no, that's not how it works. But if we get the spiritual life of America right, then the political life of America will come along with it too. It's always in the order. God brings an awakening, and then the social order finds its way as a result of the spiritual order. But it's not that eternal things are affected so much by how we vote in an election, but how we vote in an election is definitely going to be reflected by the spiritual life of America.
Let me ask you a personal question. How did you go from pastor to governor? What went on in your heart, in your head, in your mind to make that transition?
Well, I think some people thought that it was just a one-step process. I preached one Sunday in my church, and I said, you know what, I think I'll just be governor next week. A little more complicated than that.
I'm sure it is, yeah.
My first vocation, and a lot of people probably don't know this because they just assume that my first vocation was, in fact, the ministry, but it was actually media, radio, television, advertising, writing, communications. That was my first career. I became a pastor and served 2 different churches for a total of 12 years. It was an incredible experience, and I have no doubt it was what the Lord wanted me to be doing during that period of time. My original goal was to one day get into politics. And then when I got into the pastorate, I just assumed that would never happen. I put it out of my mind and out of my heart. And then probably 10 and a half, 11 years into being a pastor, people started asking me, had I ever considered running for office? These are people who had no idea what I had originally thought as a young man in my life. And God began to change my heart, and I realized that a lot of the experiences that I had had in the pastorate had prepared me in a much better way than anything I could have done to have then gone into the realm of public policy and public office. So after really about a year and a half of praying about it, seeking spiritual counsel, I felt that was what I was compelled to do. I ran for the U.S. Senate and lost the race. Then I ran for lieutenant governor in Arkansas and shocked everybody when I won. The governor resigned because he got convicted of felonies after I'd been reelected lieutenant governor. Then I became governor, reelected twice, and the rest is, that they say, history.
You are the longest serving governor in Arkansas's history, right?
Third longest Republican governor for
Republican,
sure.
okay, right.
Next one close to me was only 4 years. So more than 2.5 times what anybody had served as a Republican. But there were only 3 Republicans ever elected to statewide office before me. And the 2 governors who served longer in the days prior to term limits for governors were Orville Faubus and Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, I guess, served about a year longer than me, and Orville Faubus a year and a half longer than me.
Wow. It's interesting. I didn't know that about you. In fact, some ways our paths are very similar, as I was in ministry, Bible college, media, and was Republican chairman of the state for several years, and then our son went on to become a state senator. I lost him sitting in Congress by 1 vote. So the power of 1 vote.
It does make a difference.
It
People
certainly
sometimes
does.
Pretend that it doesn't, but it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Governor, is there hope for America? We're pretty messed up. We got a lot of problems. A lot of people are turning their back, turning their heads, and saying, what's the use? And especially Christians, they have this mentality, oh, well, this all plays into eschatology. Why bother? This is part of God's plan. How would you respond to that?
Well, I don't know how they can read the New Testament and believe that our job is to roll over and play dead. I mean, Jesus said, you're the salt of the earth. You're the light of the world. We're commanded to go and to have an impact in our world. We were never told to crawl up under the bed and go to sleep. That's never what we're told to do. And the idea that, well, it's all, coming toward the end of the world, it may be, but that doesn't mean we're to escalate it and make it happen more quickly because of our inattention to the commands of the gospel. When people say, is there hope? Yes, there is. But I'll tell you, the hope isn't going to happen if we don't show up. And by showing up, let me give an example. There are 80 million self-identified evangelicals in America. 80 million.
Yeah.
Of those, only half are even registered to vote. And of those, only half vote in a presidential election. And of those, only half vote in an off-year election. I'll give an example in the last election. If Mitt Romney had had just 4% more evangelical voters, I'm not talking about Catholic voters, mainline denominational voters, just evangelical, he would have been president today. Clearly, one of the frustrations that I have is that a lot of people in our churches who say, boy, our world's really, really just morally in decline. And then you say, well, did you vote? Well, no, it doesn't make any difference. Well, yes, it does. And you're not voting is the difference that it's made. We have to awaken our people.
Wow. Let me ask one more question before we take a break. When you were doing the show on Fox, and by the way, I commend you. I hardly missed any of your shows. And one thing that was very interesting to me is your gifting to take those who you disagree with and have a very healthy dialogue with. That was remarkable.
Well, it was one of the things that I enjoyed most about the show. And I've often said that if the people I have a conversation with are people who agree with everything I say, and whenever I say something, they say, oh, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, boy, you're really, really, really right. Then it's not much of a conversation.
No.
But if I can have a conversation with people in a civil manner, but people who don't agree with me, I find value in that. I get traction from that. I learn something from them. I hope they learn something from me. May not change their mind. They probably won't change mine. But I remember that in the Gospels, Jesus, he conversed with people he didn't agree with. He went to the house of Zacchaeus. He talked to people who were really the outcast from his own band of religious people. The people he had the most difficulty communicating with were the hyper-religious people, the people in the temple. But the down and outers and the folks that really were just polar opposite morally and spiritually, those were the people with whom he was able to connect and whose lives he ultimately changed and challenged.
All right, let me take a quick break. We'll be right back with Governor Mike Huckabee and his new book, God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy. There's a picture of it there on the screen. Let me encourage you to get a copy of this. It's remarkable. His ability to communicate his faith in all of these issues, which represents all of us, is really a gift. And let me encourage you to get a copy. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Paulina, and I work at theDove TV. Did you know that when you support theDove TV, you have a profound impact, not only in our community, but around the world? It's your continued support that takes the inspiration and hope in the programs we produce and makes them available to the thousands of people who are watching these videos online every week. Help bring encouragement and hope to our valley and beyond by making a secure online donation today at our website, thedove.us.
Okay, we're back, and our special guest today is Governor Mike Huckabee, and what an honor to have him. You've probably seen him on Fox. You've read some of his other books. His new book is out called God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy. Let me encourage you to get a copy of this book. It's just remarkable and does so well. You know, a couple things in the book, Governor, that's so interesting. You feel you're out of place in Washington, D.C., but you may be the top guy there someday. How do you handle that one?
I've told people that there's only one address. One of the things I mentioned in the book, there's only one address in all of Washington that I would be interested in moving to. So I'll let you figure out which one that might be, and it might provide some little hint of what I may attempt to do later this year.
Okay. Why are guns so important to you?
It's not so much the guns themselves, it's the freedom that comes from the ability to own firearms, which is really owning a means of protecting oneself, one's family, and one's property. Our founders believed that this was a sacred right, that we had a fundamental right to defend ourselves, not only against criminals, and this is going to sound a little bit out there, but hear me out. The context of the Second Amendment was that the founders knew that what they were doing in creating America was rebelling against their own government, which had become a tyranny. They were unshackling themselves from their government, and they had to fight their way out of it. They wanted to ensure that future generations would always have the capacity to be able to overthrow tyranny, whether it was the tyranny of an armed robber, or whether it was the tyranny of their own government. And they knew that that could not happen if people were held hostage by their own government or by a criminal. So they gave us the Second Amendment not to preserve our rights to hunt. I know a lot of times people say, well, this is all about hunting. No, it isn't. And I love to hunt, don't get me wrong. But the Second Amendment is there to protect our freedom. So for me, this isn't about how many guns do you own because, gee, that's cool. It's how much do you really value your personal liberty? What are you willing to do to preserve and protect it?
Beautifully said. If you become president, what would you do to stop the Holocaust of abortion?
Well, for one thing, we need to cut off any funding that goes toward those who promote or carry out this incredible genocide of abortion. I think we also, we need a better job of explaining to the American people why this issue matters. The president has the bully pulpit. I want you to think about something. Look how far this country has shifted, and I would say, unfortunately, how far it's shifted on the issue of same-sex marriage. And it shifted in large measure because the President of the United States has now become the biggest cheerleader for same-sex marriage, even after saying that he didn't believe in it. Imagine what happens if a president really can articulate why the issue of sanctity of life matters. And the reason that it matters is because going all the way back to the Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And this notion that every life is equal means that there is no such thing as a life that's expendable or disposable, that every life has value and has intrinsic worth. And that's what I would love to be able, as a president, to articulate to America and explain to them why that if we ever devalue one person's life, we've ultimately devalued all of our lives.
Oh, that's beautifully said. What an inspiration. All right. I want to ask you a favor.
Okay.
If you become president and it's your first State of the Union address and you're standing there in the House chamber at the podium, would you force the national cameras to scan above your head about 8 to 10 feet and comment on what's etched in marble there, "In God We Trust"?
Well, if the camera wouldn't find it, I'd love to be able to quote it, but I'd also love to quote from the inscriptions on the Jefferson Memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, the Washington Monument, many other great sayings from the people who helped create the United States of America. And I would remind them that no matter what they're told today by those who would like to rewrite and revisit history, the fact is America was founded by people who, even if in their personal lives they were not the most devout individuals, they believed that this nation could not exist nor be able to stand without a strict adherence to the Judeo-Christian understanding that we are ultimately accountable to God and we have to live by God's natural law. And that should be something that people are introduced to, because I think a lot of people have never heard that before.
Wow, it's great. How would you address the rift within the Republican Party from what they would call the establishment versus the conservative/Tea Party? There's a little sign over your left shoulder that says, "Let us come and reason together." You think we can do that?
I know we can. And the reason I know that, and one of the reasons that I'm open to running for president, is because when I became governor of Arkansas, I inherited the bluest state in the country, the most lopsided legislature in all of America. Most people don't know that, but it was more blue than Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, California. 89 out of 100 House members and 31 out of 35 Senate members were all Democrats. I had a tiny little minority, just a few voices of Republicans. And I can assure you that it was not the most welcoming environment that I stepped into. I didn't walk to the Capitol every day and they said, "Oh, great, let's see what we can do to make this guy look good and be successful." But you know what, Perry? I learned how to govern. And I learned that if I follow that inscription that you see over my shoulder, I had it sitting on the mantle in my office at the governor's office, Capitol in Little Rock, and it said, "Come, let us reason together," quoted from Isaiah. And that's what I believe, that you couldn't compromise your core convictions or your values, but you certainly could work with people and find out what it is that they're really wanting. And sometimes you could help give that to them to get something that you really wanted without compromising your biblical beliefs. And that's what we see lacking in government today, especially in Washington.
You continue to poll very well. I've never seen you below 5. You're somewhere around 3, 4. This early in the game, you and Ben Carson seem to be kind of interesting people in the race that continue to poll well. Maybe it's time that the United States has a pastor and a brain surgeon to run things.
Well, I think, look, we couldn't do any worse than what's happening now. I mean, under any circumstance. Ben Carson's a good man, and I like him a lot. He's a wonderful believer, and he's also lived a truly American life and a great, great example.
All right. Israel. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is due in town March 3rd. There's been some people wanting him to cancel that. He seems to be fairly determined to come and speak. Some senators are saying no, they won't be there. Maybe some House members may turn their back on it. And even the vice president now may be too busy to be there. This could be his most important speech ever. What do you think?
Well, it very well could be. He's going to tell the Congress something that the president apparently doesn't want to tell them, and that is that Iran represents a very serious and existential threat to America. I've known the prime minister for many years. He's a personal friend. I'll see him next week. I'll be in Israel. I was there 3 times last year alone. My first trip to Israel was back in 1973, 42 years ago, when I was all of 17 years old. And I've been back so many times I've lost count of the number of trips. The one thing I know about Israel, and I also know about Benjamin Netanyahu, is that they can't afford to be wrong on the issue of national security. They're a tiny little country, about the size of New Jersey. They're surrounded by enemies. They have repeatedly been threatened with their very existence, and Iran has repeatedly threatened to wipe them off the face of the map. A nuclear Iran is an immediate threat to the very existence of Israel. They understand that. What America doesn't understand is a nuclear Iran is a direct threat to a free America. And if the prime minister can come and to convey that message, the White House might not be willing to listen, but I think the American people will be willing to listen.
Do you think the prime minister understands that for the most part, the faith community in America, for the most part, is with him, even though this administration is not?
Well, I hope so. I think so. And that's one of the messages that I will certainly convey to him in person when I see him next week. I think he understands that the views of this administration are not reflective of the views of the vast majority of America. But I know it must be difficult for him because he's always had a great relationship with whoever the president was, Democrat or Republican. And I know how challenging it is for the prime minister, as much as it is for all of us, to watch this administration be so hostile, so utterly contemptuous of Israel. And it makes no sense at all, because it's the only real ally we have in the Middle East, the best friend we have, and the one that most mirrors our own form of government. It's why that 2 years is about all we can take of more of this current administration leading foreign policy.
You know, I asked that question to a very prominent rabbi there, and he said, well, we'd like to believe that, but you did re-elect him. And that sent a bad message. That sent a bad message.
It certainly did, but I think the last election for president was much more about the mechanics of the election than it was about the message of the election.
No question.
But it's another reminder that this is why people have to register to vote and be faithful in voting, because if not, you end up with what we've ended up with in this country for the past 6 and soon to be 8 years.
Well, Governor, thank you. I know your time is very tight. I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for what you did on Fox News all those years. You taught me as a broadcaster how to handle conflict, and I learned much by watching you. But how can we pray for you now?
Well, just pray for God's wisdom to be not only in my life as I finalize a decision as to whether I run, but you know what? Pray that God would raise up the Allans of the world to hold up my hands, to provide the funding, to provide the prayer support, the political ground support. Because even if I say yes, there's still got to be the people who serve in what I call the Aaron Brigade, the ones who hold up the arms when they get weary. So that's my prayer, and it's what I ask people to pray for.
Well, we certainly will be doing that. I also hope that you will run for a lot of reasons. One of which is that you would be that strong Christian voice in the arguments, in the debate, that you bring that spiritual balance that I think America really needs, and I think also really wants. I think there is a hunger for a spiritual balance to be put back into America.
Well, I hope so, Perry, and I guess we're about to find out.
Okay. Thank you, my friend. Best to you, and look forward to connecting again soon.
Thank you very much. God bless.
God bless. All right, Governor Mike Huckabee, and the name of the book is called God, Guns, Grits, and Gravy. All right. Well, coming up next, delighted to have back in the studio with us Robin Fuller. She heads up the Pregnancy Care Center in Grants Pass, and the silver ring thing coming to town. We'll talk about it next.
Hi, I'm Paula, and I work at theDove TV. Every day we get letters and emails from people who've been encouraged, blessed, and challenged by the programs on theDove TV. But we couldn't do it without you. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to bring inspiration and hope to our community by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or call us at 541-776-5368.
Welcome back, and delighted to have back in the studio with us today Robin Fuller. She's the Executive Director of the Pregnancy Care Center in Grants Pass, and then somebody she picked up alongside the road somewhere, I don't know. No, I am really honored to have with us today Pastor Dave Gomez of Gold Valley Fellowship. And how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good.
How you doing, Robin? Good to see you.
I'm great.
Well, we're here to talk about the silver ring thing, and a very successful program, and you've been doing it for quite a while. Tell us about it. What is it?
Well, the Silver Ring Thing is a national touring group that goes into communities and meets with teenagers. They speak the language of teen, which is loud.
Which is loud.
Loud
yeah.
Music, skits, drama, all to encourage kids to embrace a concept of abstinence until marriage. And it's just a beautiful thing. We've done it, this will be our 8th year that we've done this.
Wow.
And it's just something that blesses my heart to watch these kids hear, for many of them, a brand new concept, something they haven't even thought about. And the silver ring, of course, is something they're encouraged to purchase at the end of the evening. And they're encouraged, as Denny Patton, the founder of the Silver Ring Thing, says, to take the ring and put it on your finger, and then on your wedding day, take that ring off, hand it to your spouse, and say, I'm committed enough to you that I waited for you.
Wow.
Beautiful thing.
Beautiful thing. And you're going to do one in Medford?
Yeah, we're going to do one in Medford, the first Friday in Medford. Let's see here, May 8th at 6:30.
Okay.
And it's going to be at Central High School.
Wow.
And it's free, open to the public.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, and when's yours?
Ours is Wednesday, May 6th.
Okay, so the 6th and the 8th. 6th in Grants Pass, the 8th in Medford.
Yeah.
And where's yours going to be?
Ours is at the Performing Arts Center at Grants Pass High School.
And you're always sold out or something.
Well, what happened is we took a break from doing the event in 2013. And so when we did it last year, we were so packed, we were overflowing. And so that's when we're so thankful that Dave came along and said, hey, let's split this up. We'll do one in Grants Pass and one in Medford.
All right, and what do they do, Dave?
So you basically go to silverringthing.com, you register your group there, just so we can get a count for our venue, and then you just show up night of. You don't have to have a ticket, you can just show up.
Well, I can't tell you, and how far, what ages? Robin?
It's for 12 to 19. There have been some 11-year-olds attend if their parents have talked with them about sex and they're pretty open about that.
Yeah. So, and I can't say enough about this because the success rate on this and the whole purpose of this has been quite remarkable. Yeah. Tell us about it.
Well, we've had over 5,000 teens attend in the years that we've done it.
5,000.
And over 1,000 students make a commitment to Christ and put the ring on. I don't have the actual numbers with me. I should, but it's just phenomenal to watch the response of the teens. And they buy these rings, and I see them all around town. And I'm excited it can be in Medford, and just really praying for a huge success in Medford. Medford's a lot bigger than Grants Pass. You guys should be, you know, packing that auditorium.
Dave, you've worked with young people a lot in your career. Is the subject of abstinence on the table?
It is, but will the church talk about it? Will the church dialogue about it? And so kids are talking about it everywhere, all the time. And with the advent of Snapchat, all these different social medias, it's there.
It's there.
Yeah.
And so kids wanting to make this commitment?
You know, I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. And that's really my heart. That's why we're doing this. At least we're giving them an option, is what I feel, All
right, so, and that's, there's two venues here. The 6th in Grants Pass at the Performing Arts Center, and then on the 8th in Medford, and again at
Central High School, Central High School.
And I can't say enough about this. Hopefully, you know, youth groups, youth pastors bring their kids to this.
Yeah, please.
Should guys come?
Oh, well, absolutely. Everybody. And what's amazing is the volunteers, it usually takes about 100 volunteers. And the volunteers are so blessed by this event. They get to be there and help size rings for the teenagers and just interact with them and sit there and pray. And it's the funnest volunteer opportunity we have. And Dave needs volunteers.
It takes 40 to do the whole shebang.
You need
40 volunteers.
So what if they want to help you, what do they do?
They can at Pastor Dave at gvfchurch.org. Just give me an email, Pastor Dave.
GVF, church.org.
Church.org,
Okay, I better write that down. All right, so if you're in the Medford area and you want to help Pastor Dave, get a hold of him, Pastor Dave, GVFchurch.org.
And it takes money.
I was getting money.
It takes money. And
what does it?
We, after doing it the first year, we've never had problems financing this event in Grants Pass. Once people see it, they see how amazing it is. And what Denny Patton wanted to do, his own personal story, he grew up in an atheist home, and he actually went down for at least 10 different altar calls in his life before it finally really stuck. And so his feeling is, bring them on, bring the kids down, let them walk down front. And they also are really good at talking to those teens who have already had sex and letting them know it's never too late to choose abstinence. And so I would encourage anybody that's watching this or listening to this to make a financial contribution to this to make sure it happens so the kids don't have to spend money. And then last year, I think we had about $500 donated for ring scholarships for these kids who couldn't afford a ring, but they so desperately wanted one.
Okay.
So
how much is a ring?
They're $20.
$20. Well, there you go. Maybe you'd like to sponsor a bunch of rings. 5 rings, that's $100. Do that. All right, so what do they contact you for that?
Well, they can go to silverringthing.com, contact them. They can contact Dave at gvfchurch.org.
Pastor Dave at GVF.
Pastor Dave at gvfchurch.org. Or they can contact the Pregnancy Care Center in Grants Pass, 479-6264. And I just encourage both of our communities to really get behind this event and come see it. If you're an older person and you're thinking, I don't have teenagers, but this is something that you're passionate about, come and look at this event. It is such a high-class, well-done program.
Well, there you go. Look, I know some parents that have gone to this. I know some teenagers have gone to this. They walked away and went, wow. And there's something electrifying by putting a bunch of kids in a room when this subject is talked about. and they really gain the faith to say, yep, I'm going to do this. You know, they gain the momentum and say, yep, I'm going to do this, especially if their friends walk down there, you know.
Well, you know, and what's amazing is altar calls are not popular.
Yeah.
They're not popular these days.
Yeah.
And so the first time they actually did an altar call, and Spencer, the young man who shares the gospel, is phenomenal. He's in his young 20s. He is so good. So when he gave that altar call, and I watched all these students, hundreds of them, stand up and walk down front in front of their peers, I was humbled and I cried.
Wow, I guess so. All right, the Silver Ring thing coming up May 6th in Medford, or in Grants Pass, May 8th in Medford, and at the Performing Arts Center in Grants Pass on the 6th, and at the Central High School in Medford on the 8th, 6:30 both times. And let me encourage you, support them with your volunteer help, support them with your finances, and maybe you'd like to get a hold of them and support them and sponsor some rings, because a lot of kids can't afford $20, and maybe you could buy several rings or one ring or whatever, so those kids.
And go to silverringthing.com to register to come to the event at either location.
Silverringthing.com. Thanks, both of you.
Thank you, Perry.
Okay, we'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dan and I work at theDove TV. You know, compared to Portland, Seattle, and LA, Medford might be considered a small market, but at theDove, we're excited about the opportunity to make a big impact right here in our community. And you help make that happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us now by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us, or by phoning 541-776-5368.
All right, welcome back. Well, there's a host of some great Christian films coming out this year, and one of them that's going to be aired in our area coming up April 24th is A Matter of Faith. And earlier, our Steve Johnson had a chance to talk to Rich Cristiano, who is the director of the movie of Matter of Faith. So let's join them in their conversation.
Well, this is somewhat an era for faith-based movies. We've seen a whole lot of movies coming both on the big screen and the little screen. A.D., the latest one from Mark Burnett and Roma Downey on TV, but we've also seen a lot of movies at the theaters, and one of those who helps to put those movies in the theaters and make them before they put them in the theater is Rich Cristiano. And Rich, give us an idea. You and your brother actually work together to make these films, don't you?
Yes, I have a twin brother, Dave, and it's good to talk to you, by the way, Steve. And we've been doing this for 30 years, believe it or not.
Wow.
Started when I was 5 years old.
I'm sure. How many films have you made so far?
Between us, we've made, I think, 14 different projects. You know, our first 8 films were shorts. You know, movies 30 to 50 minutes, because back in the day when we started, you would make a film and you rent it out to churches. You rent it out to either the pastor or the youth pastor. That was the market. You worked with what was called Christian film libraries around the country, and it was strictly a rental market. Then when VHS came in, the whole industry changed, and Christian bookstores started getting involved, and you start selling your VHSs through ministries and Christian bookstores, and now obviously DVD, and there's Blu-ray and all sorts of things now. And as you said, the doors have been opened up for the theaters, and we like starting with our movies first in the theater, because first of all, the theater is the best place to watch a movie. It has maximum impact, and we can confront the culture that way. You know, people love to go to the movies. Whether they want them to or not, Christians are going every week, so we're trying to provide an alternative to give them godly entertainment, but also movies that can be used as witnessing tools with non-believers.
Okay, I want to talk about your latest one called A Matter of Faith, and to give our viewers and listeners an idea of what it's all about, we've got a trailer that if they haven't seen it, they don't know anything about it. Here's a trailer for A Matter of Faith.
Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
One of the hardest things for a father is when it comes time to send his little girl off to college.
Complex life forms evolved from simpler life forms.
I really like all of my instructors, especially my biology teacher, Professor Kamen. He's a riot.
The guy's an evolutionist, and there's nothing in the whole course description about biblical creation as even a plausible alternative.
All our public schools and universities teach evolution as the answer to the origins of life.
Evolution versus creationism, what do you say?
Professor Kamen, my dad can't debate you.
I've never done anything like this before.
You debating Professor Kamen is not going to solve anything.
This guy stands against everything that we believe in. What are you doing?
What did you tell him?
I'm not interested. Do you know how embarrassing this is going to be for me?
Welcome everyone to our debate tonight.
Wasn't the Bible written by men?
Yes, it was.
Then how does that make it the Word of God?
Coming to these theaters April 24th.
And some of those theaters, of course, are the Varsity in Ashland, as well as the Southgate Cinema in Grants Pass, Pelican Cinemas in Klamath Falls, Pony Village Cinema in North Bend, and Crescent City Cinemas in Crescent City. So you're hitting quite a swath of towns in Oregon to start off with. And again, this will be the 24th that this all starts. This particular film, what motivated you to move in this particular direction?
Well, this whole project for us started about 3 years ago, and I think the thing that propelled it is, I don't know if the viewers know this, but evolution is taught in our schools and universities across this great land of ours, basically as a matter of fact. And if we try to make one point in this film, it's simply this: nobody can prove evolution, because nobody was there at the beginning, can go back and prove it. And to be fair, no person can prove creation. No one can go back in time and prove creation. Both these issues then become a matter of faith, hence the title of the movie. And I just believe the evolution creation controversy or issue is a critical issue. It's obviously foundational to the Christian faith. So we wanted to try to make a film that was meant to be a discussion starter. What I like about this project is anybody can watch this movie. This movie does not come at you, but it presents truth. And that's the key to me when it comes to Christian films. We need to present truth. You know, my brother and I have been doing this for quite a while, 30 years, and a lot of the movies that come out say 2 good words about God and think they got a Christian film. You know, when you think about it, people become Christians because they need to hear the gospel, they need to hear the truth, and that's what I think this film does. So we're trying to encourage people, if you know somebody that has maybe drifted away from the Lord or needs to know the Lord, and certainly we all know people like that, this is a very good film to get them to watch, because they're not going to feel threatened, but they're going to hear truth, and it's going to open up doors for you to talk to them. For example, you could watch this movie and turn to your friend and say, look, let me ask you this. Where are you in the evolution creation issue? And then the guy's going to give you his response. Now you're in a conversation with him about spiritual things. Then you could say, no, where are you with the Lord? Because this movie is going to present a choice, and it's left up to the viewer to decide which one to choose. And you know, we worked hard on this film. We've played about 100 theaters so far, and without giving you any false hype, Steve, the response has been very good, very good. I think this movie's got heart at the end. The last 25 minutes of this movie, I think, really should work for people. I mean, I think it's pretty compelling and interesting and thought-provoking, and you know, we're praying the Lord will use it. And we appreciate the Dove Network, you guys stepping up to help us bring it to the Oregon area.
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting in Ashland again, Grants Pass, Klamath Falls, North Bend, Crescent City, all those places where I know you're hoping that it'll be in the theaters for quite a while. We'll have to see how that works. You know, and I notice people will recognize, especially Harry Anderson there, if they watch Night Court from the 1980s and all that, and he is pretty much the kind of linchpin, I guess you'd say, to this whole story. Now, some people might say, and I've heard you probably have answered this a few times, this is similar to the theme God's Not Dead. How would you describe either the differences or the similarities between your movie, A Matter of Faith, and God's Not Dead?
Yeah, we have gotten that. I mean, I would say this, you know, it's like Star Wars and Star Trek. I mean, they're both sci-fi movies, but they're really different. I mean, God's Not Dead obviously is a college drama, and so is ours. Our movie deals specifically with evolution and creation. Plus, I think our truth goes a little deeper. We hit it a little bit harder, a little stronger. We try to do the truth in love, though. Everything is presented in love. Like I said, it's non-threatening, but I think it hits it a little harder. So, you know, there's always room for more movies, and, you know, people, they're on to the next one, you know. So hopefully they will consider this film. I mean, the response has been really very good across the country as we've shown it. And, you know, one thing we're trying to encourage, especially youth groups and college students, but especially youth groups, you know, youth that are going to secular schools right now face this issue, you know, during their coursework, and certainly when they go on to college. So we're trying to get youth directors to rally to bring their kids, but also for their parents to see this movie. Because, you know, part of the story of this movie is the dad is concerned about what his daughter is learning at college. And he loves his daughter. He cares about his daughter, and he cares about her spiritually. Let me just back up for a second, Steve. I know you showed the trailer, but basically what this movie's about. It's about a freshman girl. She's the only daughter of loving Christian parents. She goes to college. And she takes a biology class, and the biology professor, played by Harry Anderson from Night Court, teaches evolution. But he's funny, he's clever, he's interesting, and the girl starts drifting. He makes it sound good. So after 4 or 5 weeks of school, she comes home to visit her parents, and a spiritual clue is dropped. The dad senses something wrong with his daughter. There's something wrong here, and she's talking about this professor. So he goes online and he realizes this guy's is an evolutionist, he's an atheist, he's an evolutionist. He teaches evolution, and nowhere does it even mention creation as an alternative when it comes to how the world began. So the dad gets the idea, I want to go talk to this professor. Why do you teach just evolution? And it just so happens the campus does these monthly debates, and it's the biology department's turn to do the next debate. And so Harry Anderson's character very cleverly kind of corners the dad, challenges him to a debate, and he accepts. And the daughter's going to go ballistic. You cannot do this. This is going to be the most embarrassing thing. I'm going to have to leave campus now. You can't come and debate the most popular professor. And she's all strung out, and so she won't talk to the dad. So the dad's in a real pickle. He loves his daughter. He wants to stand up for the truth. He knows he's a fish out of water, and it goes from there, And I think the performances in this movie are really solid. The lead, the girl whose name is Rachel in the movie, was played by Jordan Trevelyan. She was excellent. The dad's played by Jay Pickett, does a super job. Clarence Gilliard's in this movie. People might remember him from the Walker, Texas Ranger TV series. He's excellent in this movie. And, of course, Harry. It's a good cast. And, hopefully this movie builds. It builds like to the debate. There is a debate in this film. In the last 25 minutes of this movie, I think this movie builds to. So hopefully the viewers will take this as an opportunity. And keep in mind, when it comes to these movies, the most important days are its opening weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Because if your movie does well the first 3 days, then they'll hold it for another week. Because on Monday morning is when all the decisions are made when it comes to movies. Like, let's say, for example, in the Varsity Theater, I don't know how many screens, maybe they have 10 screens. Let's say after opening weekend on Monday morning, they rank those movies from 1 to 10. So if you have one of the top 2 or 3 or 4 films, they're going to keep you for another week. But if you come in 8th or 9th place and they got 3 new movies coming in the next week, you're done after 1 week. So that's why everybody always emphasizes the first 3 days are the most important. And we're just hoping that church groups will turn out and take this movie serious. This movie has a very serious message, but also is inspiring at the end. And we need more Christian films like this that have truth for the churches to support. I feel like in many cases, the films that are being offered to the churches kind of like have pseudo messages to them. Like I said, they throw a word or two about God and think they got a Christian film, and they say, well, it's better than what Hollywood's putting out. Well, my attitude is we can do better than that. We can present Christ, we can present truth in a good way, in a way that people will receive. And keep this in mind too, Steve. Movies are powerful, very powerful. In fact, George Lucas, the famous Star Wars director and producer, made this statement years ago. He said, the church, which used to be all powerful, has been usurped by film. In fact, what Lucas is saying is movies are more powerful than the church. And he may be right. Seriously, he may be right. I mean, they're that powerful, and I think that we as the church need to use them for our benefit.
All right. Well, we'll be interested to hear what you have after this, but don't want to jump the gun too much. Want to mention again that A Matter of Faith will be April 24th at the theaters in Ashland at the Varsity, Grants Pass at Southgate Cinemas, Klamath Falls at Pelican Cinemas, North Bend at the Pony Village Cinema, and Crescent City at the Crescent City Cinemas. Rich Cristiano, the director of A Matter of Faith, and I'm sure that we'll be talking to you more about your films in the future, but this starts on April 24th, and you're hoping it'll be there for quite a few weeks, so we wish the best for you.
Can I say one more thing, Steve? I want to say something to the viewers. If you don't like this film, Steve said he'll refund your tickets, so look, you got nothing to lose.
Yeah, no, I think it's Rich's twin brother. It's good to have a clone brother, that's for sure. You can always blame things on him.
Yeah, that's right.
Thanks, Rich. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Lord bless.
Well, that's it for us today. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Hi, I'm Jim and I work at theDove TV. Every weekday between 6 and 8 a.m., our award-winning news and sports team bring you the best morning show around. It's live, it's honest, and it's a whole lot of fun. And you help make it happen. Did you know that more than 90% of our income comes from people like you? You can help us continue to air local programs that share your voice by making a secure online donation at our website, thedove.us.